All right, so we have a lot to discuss at the municipal level. Joining me right now is Mayor John Tory for his weekly check-in. Mayor, good morning to you.
Good morning, Mel.
First of all, can you speak that many languages before we get down to more business, or are you going to be putting out some videos like that?
Yes, there's actually a bit of a campaign that's being organized by the government of Ontario for having a number of us mayors and other people who are in the public eye a little bit to urge people to stay at home. So I haven't done some in different languages, but I've done some that focus a bit on some of the benefits of staying home that go beyond COVID-19, because there are some in terms of, you end up doing all your meetings from home on Zoom and so on, but it gives you some time and an opportunity to do some other things. So I will have a couple of messages that'll be out there, and lots of other people I think will tomorrow as well. It's supposed to be a day when we all try and get that message out. And I think people are, notwithstanding the traffic that I saw there on BT, the traffic cameras show a lot of cars. You still wonder who all the people are. I know there are people going to work, but there still seem to be more than, might be the case if everybody was really trying to work from home if they possibly could.
Absolutely. While we're on that line now, can we talk a bit about the latest when it comes to enforcement? Do you have any updated numbers on where things stand with how the city is faring with people abiding by these rules or not?
Well, I think they're more or less abiding by it, and we have to rely on complaints mainly to send out the authorities. And in this case, for example, the night before last, there were 11 large gathering complaints that came in. This is people phoning into 311 to say there's a noisy party going on and there must be more people there than the rules permit. And when we went out, I think they issued 8 tickets to people who were at these parties, or at least one of them, and those are tickets for $750. So we're not talking here about a slap on the wrist. And I think that many of the parties, by the time the police get there, they've kind of dispersed, because probably the neighbor has already called the people and said you're making too much noise and you shouldn't be having that party. You've seen the efforts the provincial government is making with the inspections at the big box stores, and while my personal view is those should be closed except for grocery shopping, they are doing these inspections. They had 70% compliance, which I guess if you brought that home from school and you had a 70, they'd say, well, that's a B, but you could do better. So I think they could do better, and hopefully the government is continuing to look at that. So I guess I would say that the indications are, if you combine that with the traffic data that I do have for Toronto and some of the phone data that we have in terms of whether people's phones are staying home or not, that people are doing okay. I would say okay. It's a sort of a solid B, but we got to move it up to an A or an A+. And so there's more people that have to, not be in lineups at big box stores and not go to work if they don't have to, and this kind of thing.
Yeah, we also are looking at the piece of the puzzle that's massive here is vaccination. So we saw Metro Toronto Convention Centre, which was set to stay open for 6 weeks. It sounded great until you look at the supply, and obviously Pfizer is what's backing us, or holding us up, I should say, right now. The Premier has reached out to Pfizer Canada. Have you reached out personally just yet?
Yes, I have just happened to have a couple of people that are from my past life that are associates of mine, and I have, and the Prime Minister I know is doing the same thing. Everybody is really trying to sort of make the case that, look, it's understandable in a certain way that if there's got to be a cutback in how much we get, because of, production issues, changing around of production lines, which I gather they're doing. But it doesn't seem right or fair that Canada should get nothing for a week, because that sets back a lot of the efforts that we're making as a country to, for example, do vaccinations in long-term care. So I think it's one of those things where I think the message is certainly getting out there that hopefully they would reconsider what they're doing vis-a-vis Canada. Who knows whether they will or not. And I know the Prime Minister and the Government of Canada, who are responsible for this in the end, the vaccine supply, are working hard at this and making every effort to, to try to make sure we don't leave any stone unturned in getting vaccine, and so we can use that. We can't operate a clinic or do anything, nor can the province really, unless you have the vaccine. So that's the key to all of this, and everybody's working very hard on it.
How was that conversation, though? Was it productive in that there were any promises made to us?
Well, there's certainly been no promises made to me. I'm not aware there would have been to anybody, but because the problem at the moment is that, the capacity that these companies have is fully spoken for in one way or another. And if you then add to that some kind of a production issue, say when you're changing a line around as they're doing in Belgium, which is apparently where our Pfizer supply comes from. But, it's one of those things where if you just ask them to have another look, and, sometimes it's one of those things where, it may well be that they just discover that somebody else wasn't able to take their shipment at a given point in time, so they can kind of redirect that. So you're just asking them to, reconsider a decision they obviously made, for one reason or another. But I think if we all make an effort led by our Prime Minister, then, who knows, we might be able to get some positive results. And in our case at the city, what we're focused on is simply getting ready, and we have been doing this for months, which is to make sure that when these kinds of clinics have to be open because there is supply, we can then be ready to put needles in people's arms safely and efficiently.
Mayor, you've got an announcement coming up later on this morning with provincial and federal counterparts. Anything that you can share with us in advance of that?
Well, that one is mainly to do with a wonderful infrastructure project. People may remember Herb Carnegie, who was a hockey player, one of the first black hockey players that actually was kind of, very badly mistreated in the NHL on the basis of, racial discrimination at the time, but many years ago. And there's an arena that's going to be refurbished using infrastructure money from all the governments. But I'm also going to be talking today about bridging this digital divide that exists in the city of Toronto and starting to take some solid steps to make sure that some of the infrastructure we have can be better put to use, making sure more people have proper access to the internet, because there's a lot of people in Toronto, maybe upwards of more than a third, who don't have the kind of high-speed access a lot of us would take for granted, which of course is very disadvantageous for their children, for them. The children, when it comes to things like virtual learning or even just doing your homework, a lot of that's done on the internet now. It's certainly a far cry from the way I did homework. But having said that, we've got to make sure we keep up with this, especially for the kids who are in neighborhoods where people are struggling, because you want them to have the opportunity to be the best they can be. And so we'll be talking about both of those things today.
Okay, and especially since who knows how long we're going to be out of the classroom here in the city of Toronto. All right, Mayor Tory, as always, appreciate your time. But you know what time it is, right?